Welcome back. You're still watching The World Today. More than 1,000 anti-war protesters rallied in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. on Sunday. Some accusing the U.S. government of being behind last year's undersea explosions that damaged the Nord Stream pipelines transporting natural gas from Russia to Europe. Some protesters gave credence to an article by Pulitzer Prize-winning American journalist Seymour Hersh, which reported that the U.S. had orchestrated the attacks in September 2022. The report has been rejected as complete fiction by the White House.
Pleasantly surprising to me to say that the people will not tolerate it. You might not have.
We need to follow their example.
Ultimately, this is actually a war against Europe, in my opinion. Russia has been supplying gas to Germany and other countries within Europe. The United States attacked the Nord Stream pipeline to put an end to that. It's getting very vicious.
With Biden, who's publicly said that he's going to end the Nord Stream 2, you have Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State, which said that she's glad that the Nord Stream 2, after it was blown up. And then you have Antony Blinken, who said similar statements. And then, of course, you have the Seymour Hersh report that which corroborates a lot of the information that we already knew. It's really surprising and shocking that European countries have not spoken out against the United States' sort of role in this, and it's a shocking and sad.
To the aftermath of the explosion of the earthquake in Turkey and in Syria, the body of Ghanaian winger Christian Atsu has been flown to his home in Accra, Ghana, the day after he was found dead under a collapsed building in southern Turkey. Atsu had been missing since February 6, since the February 6 earthquake following the collapse of an apartment building in Hitay, where he had been living. He was just 31 years old. Draped in Ghana's national flag, Atsu's coffin was received at Accra's Kotoko International Airport by Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia and a large military procession. He had been scheduled to fly out of southern Turkey hours before the quake, but Hatayspor's manager said on Friday the Ghanaian had opted to stay with the club after scoring the winning goal in a February 5th Super League match. Atsu won 65 caps for Ghana and helped them to reach the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations final, where they lost to Cote d'Ivoire on penalties. He was last selected to play for Ghana in 2019.
Has been put into the head and it will move straight to its destination.
While President Biden was in Kyiv today announcing more military hardware for Ukraine, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Turkey on Sunday, pledging additional $100 million in humanitarian aid to the country after touring the earthquake-hit southeastern part. Blinken arrived in Turkey on Sunday for an official visit and discussions on how Washington can further assist Ankara as it grapples with the aftermath of the devastating earthquake that killed over 46,000 people. After arriving, Blinken took a helicopter tour of the quake-struck area with his Turkish counterpart, Mevlut Cavusoglu. Blinken later visited an aid logistics center and helped military personnel load humanitarian aid.
We are here to stand with the people of Turkey and Syria in the wake of this devastating earthquake. I just had a chance to fly over Hatay to see some of the devastation, and it's really hard to put it into words. You see buildings still standing, and then buildings collapse, roofs destroyed, and right next to it, something that's still standing. But it gives you some sense of the scale of this. We've had tens of thousands of deaths. Tens of millions of people affected by this earthquake. And of course, we still don't know the full extent of it. We've had about $85 million worth of assistance poured in immediately for housing, water, and food, and medicine, and clothing. All that in the immediate days following the earthquake. Today I can announce that we will be putting in another $100 million to assist those who are so desperately in need. this is going to be a long-term effort. The search and rescue, unfortunately, is coming to an end. The recovery operation is on, and then there'll be a massive rebuilding effort. When you see the extent of the damage, the number of buildings, the number of apartments, the number of homes that have been destroyed, it's going to take a massive effort to rebuild. But we're committed to supporting Turkey in that effort. Many countries around the world are doing the same. There's tremendous solidarity and tremendous determination to see this through.
International volunteers in Hatay say they were motivated to help in the aftermath of the earthquake because of help their countries have received from Turkey. A death toll from the earthquake that struck on February 6 has now risen to above 40,000, according to the Disaster and Emergency Management Authority.
You know the story, when the people too short time have a big the cost, donate a lot of money and trying to buy to Turkey this Bayraktar. What did Turkey do? Give it the free. So this, as you know, like us, we can help and say thankful, be here, and that's a little part to, you know, share this, like Turkey people can do for us, we can do the same for them.
We all are a big family, and as in family, we have to support and help into each other. So as the family, we have to find some kind of words, some help, and support each other.
All these members, they are actually volunteer drivers. They do a lot of rescue in the front line in Ukraine. And we saw the news what happened. And I'm Korean American. So I know these Turkish people helped Korean when we were having difficulties during the war. So I asked my friend, can we help Turkey? I think it's time to pay them back.
We want to say how sorry we are for the people of Turkey, how much love we have for them and support, and we just want to help with relief and disaster assistance. That's why our team is here. We tried to do the best we could for them in the period that we were here. We know this is going to take quite a long time to get over, but the resilience that they have shown, the people that we have met and the families we've met, we know that they will get through this. We know that they are strong enough.
In the meantime, the Turkish Disaster Agency says rescue efforts have been called off in all but 2 provinces in the country. Nearly 2 weeks since the devastating earthquake struck on Monday, February 6th, search continues in Karamansad and in Hatay, but hope is fading on finding anyone else alive in the rubble. It's been a grueling 2 weeks of searching, sifting, listening, and sometimes rejoicing since the 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, and the rescue work is grinding to a halt. On Sunday, Turks saw off international search and rescue teams with applause and other gestures of thanks. Online videos from different embassies showed teams from a number of countries returning home after flying in to help in the wake of the disaster. According to reports, the combined death toll from the quake stands at more than 46,000. But the figure is expected to rise, with some 345,000 apartments known to be destroyed in Turkey and many people still missing. Among the dead now is Ghanaian winger Christian Atsu, who was found under the building where he lived in southern Turkey. Atsu had been missing since the quake. He joined Hatayspor in September last year with English Premier League clubs Everton, Chelsea and Newcastle United. So far in the last few days, rescue of survivors has been few and far between. On Saturday, 3 people, including a child, were rescued alive from the rubble of the building in Hatay city of southern Turkey, 296 hours after the quake. The mother and father survived, but the child died later of dehydration, according to rescue teams. Over in Syria, in the northwestern city of Atsus, hundreds of families who were displaced from the earthquake have a new challenge to overcome. a shortage of tents. Locally manufactured tents cost between $150 and $250 and are purchased by those affected by the earthquake or local NGOs. But the quality of tents is said to be less than the quality of tents that international organizations deliver. But it is the only option for the large number of people searching for shelter. International attention has not shifted from the devastation caused by the quake. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Ankara on Sunday to discuss how Washington can further assist. He later took a helicopter ride with his Turkish counterpart Mevlut Cavusoglu to tour southeastern Turkey. The UK Development Minister Andrew Mitchell visited a field hospital in Turkey set up by British Army airborne medics. Members of the 16th Medical Regiment and of RAF's Tactical Medical Wing built the field hospital, which operates next to a hospital that was damaged in the quake. And Washington correspondent Maria Bird joins me now. Maria, shuttle diplomacy at play for the United States in Ukraine and in Turkey. How are Americans back home affected by the situation in both countries?
You know, this is an extremely difficult position for Americans to be in. As you know, humanitarian relief efforts are one of the main staples that the U.S. puts forth when we have these type of disasters. But as we know, the U.S. is getting ready for the one-year anniversary of the attack by Russia onto Ukraine and the war that has ensued now for almost a year, and the amount of spending and amount of support that has gone from the U.S. to Ukraine and efforts to support them during this period. And now having Turkey, and as you heard earlier, is potentially going to be close to $185 million of relief efforts toward Turkey during this quake. And so I think that the U.S. is obviously in a very difficult situation right now, trying to ensure that they're able to properly support these efforts. And as we said before, you know, humanitarian efforts and relief is one of the core staples of the American way. But what we also know is that there has been a very close relationship between Russia and Turkey in the past. And so that does create some additional political landscapes there. But again, as you can see, the U.S. is focusing solely on the humanitarian efforts, trying to stay clear of some of the political standpoints that exist, and focusing on the search and rescue and being able to help the people of Turkey to rebuild.
Yes, and the Secretary of State promised humanitarian aid as much as $100 million, which Turkey so desperately needs now. But the rescue teams are leaving. So how much further is the U.S. willing to go with Turkey recovering from the quake?
Yes, as you stated, the relief efforts are beginning to leave, and the U.S. has several stages of how they process through when they do provide humanitarian efforts. USAID will probably continue to be on the ground. We have obviously bases throughout, and we have been obviously there to support in the rescue, but now it's going to be supporting through efforts of what do we do with the refugees? How do we support in that area? The president has said it should be close to $50 million that should be potentially utilized to help those who are refugees as a result of the quake. So the U.S. will be helping in that effort. The U.S. will also be helping with the rebuilding. The question, though, is that how quickly Turkey should rebuild and what is going to be the best strategy moving forward to ensure that they are able to properly rebuild and not put themselves in potential of another quake.
Were there any Americans directly impacted by the quake or in the area, any of the areas where the earthquake hit?
What we knew shortly after the quake hit was that there was one American family from New York City that was there visiting Turkey that did lose their lives as a result of the quake. I'm sure that we will probably find out continued information as time goes on, but at this time, that's as much as we know.
And Maria, I see that the U.S. is working solely in the aid effort for Turkey. Usually the country does this with allies and with partners. Are there plans to cooperate with these allies, perhaps Canada, the United Kingdom, the usual regular folks who join America in most of these missions, to work with the U.S. in helping to restore Turkey after the aftermath?
I'm sure the president, that's one of his strong points is foreign relations will begin to work through that. But as we know, NATO has not necessarily come on board. We have Sweden and Finland, which continue to be a challenge as it relates to the political dynamics between those two countries and Turkey. And so I think that it's a little different than what we've seen in years past. But I know that the U.S. will be continuing to provide these efforts. And again, it becomes a little bit more challenging because the U.S. has galvanized a lot of support for Ukraine. And so I think that there will likely in the future be a combined support efforts from some of the major U.S. allies. But I think that's going to take a bit more work from the president. As we know, he's currently in Ukraine right now. And so we'll probably be hearing things in the coming weeks, especially as we look at how to help and assist with refugees and all those who have been left homeless as a result of the quake.
Maria, thanks again. To other news now, the UN humanitarian organization in Nigeria is calling for $1.3 billion to work through Nigeria's changing humanitarian crisis, especially in the Bay States of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. Resident and humanitarian coordinator Matthias Schmale said this when he launched this year's humanitarian response plan, which shows that 6 million people in the country are to be affected. During my interview with him on Diplomatic Channel, he added that this year's presidential candidates have sidelined issues of humanitarian concerns.
We have prioritized among the over 8 million people, 6 million people we are hoping to reach with various humanitarian assistance. And in fact, the income situation will force us to further prioritize. So I know that may be a bit confusing. The issue is there is an overall need, and then subject to resource availability, we are having to lower the number of people we can reach because of prioritization.
As it starts with the general elections this coming weekend, do you think candidates have highlighted enough the humanitarian needs across the country?
Well, if you permit me to make the more general observation first, which is that from my perspective, the campaigns have not really been issues-based. I know that many of the candidates will protest. Of course, they have talked about issues. But my general impression is that it's been much more about individuals. It's very personality-driven, about leadership styles rather than substantial issues. And so to come back to your specific question, no, I do not think that there has been enough debate within the campaigns, both in terms of candidates putting issues forwards, but also the few times they've debated with each other. In these occasions or on these occasions, there has not been any focus or hardly any focus on the humanitarian situation, whether that's the Northeast that we've been discussing or humanitarian needs in other parts of the country. So finally, an example of that is we are predicting that at least 20 million people will be food insecure this year across the country. I mentioned 4 million in the Bay States, but that leaves 16 million people struggling to find enough food in the rest of the country. And to the best of my knowledge, this kind of issue has not been intensely put on the table and debated as part of the campaigns, which is regrettable.
We're off on another short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the view from outer space. I'm not sure if that's the right picture, but it will come up later on. China's space agency releases video of Earth scenes filmed by astronauts through the window of the Tiangong space station. So let's really pictures. Welcome back. Officials in Brazil say 36 people at least have been killed in flooding and landslides in the state of Sao Paulo. Dozens of people are still missing, while the number of dead is expected to rise. According to rescue workers, we're hoping to still pull some of those trapped in flooded homes out of the mud alive. A video showed neighborhoods underwater, inundated motorways, and even mudslides like these. Debris left out of houses were swept away. Even carnival celebrations have been cancelled in a number of cities. In the coastal town of São Sebastião, Rain fell in 24 hours, twice the expected amount for the month. The town's mayor, Philippe Auguste, said the situation there is chaotic as they've not gauged the scale of damage. They're still trying to rescue victims. Some 50 houses have collapsed and were washed away, according to Mr. Augusto. He says the situation remains extremely critical. Well, as we mentioned, some cities in Brazil's state of Sao Paulo have cancelled Carnival celebrations due to the heavy rainstorms. Torrential rains have battered the coastal area in the state recently, triggering floods, mudslides and landslides and killing dozens of people. Floods have also paralyzed traffic in the city of Sao Paulo. A bus crashed into a utility pole in heavy rain on Sunday, cutting off the power supply and TV signal to local communities. A maintenance technician said the bus lost control and ran into the utility pole along the roadside. They'd had to move the bus first and then repair the transmission lines before restoring the TV signal for users in the region. Sunday marked the third day of the 5-day Carnival holiday in the state. 6 cities in the northern part of the state have declared public emergencies and cancelled the celebrations. And more from Carnival later, but a video of Africa is facing severe extreme climate shocks. China's experience in dealing with climate change will be of great help to the continent. That's according to the United Nations official on the sidelines of the 36th ordinary session of the African Union Assembly. The assembly started on Saturday as African leaders, UN officials, and leaders of various international organizations gathered in the Ethiopian city of Addis Ababa. At a press conference later, the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and Director General of the African Risk Capacity Group, Ibrahima Sheikh Diong, pointed out that solving the climate change crisis in Africa is urgent.
Now, obviously, the way China has also tremendous experiences in dealing with climate issues and disaster issues. China can provide also support, technical assistance, capacity building, climate-related capacity building, so we can help build the capacity of African countries. So we're looking forward to developing strategic partnership that are win-win partnership.
And staying on the continent, Nigerian immigration officers are in southern Africa for an intervention to clear passport application backlogs that have left thousands of Nigerians frustrated. Channel Television caught up with them in Johannesburg, where hundreds of Nigerians have been lining up at the Consulate General to have all their passport needs sorted. The Consul General, Mr. Andrew Edie, says he's hopeful and in the next 30 days, every Nigerian in southern Africa will have their passport needs sorted.
Many Nigerians in South Africa and neighboring countries have been heaving a sigh of relief since this notice of intervention by the delegation of the Nigerian Immigration Service went out. Their mission is to clear the backlog of applications for passports running into thousands.
Essentially, what they're here to do is to expedite the capturing and production of passports to needy Nigerians. They've been at work since their arrival on the 17th. You can see the turnout today, hopefully. In the next 15-20 days. That's my objective. We should be able to clear all pending passport applications.
Everyone in that huge crowd has a story of long waits and frustration.
Let me call it a year now. You know, for the first time when you come to capture, they give you dates, keep on. But as God may have it, the consulate make everything easier for everybody. So everybody are coming from far away in order to get their passport.
My passport expired. I tried to went home to do the passport, but the airline refused to board me in. So that's why I'm here today, because they said that they are officials that come from Nigeria. So they give date from 17th to 24th. So that's why I'm here today.
No, my own is lost passport. So my own is another procedure. Yeah, but I've gotten it. I think they gave me 6 weeks to collect it. Yeah.
Since the intervention began last Friday, the immigration officers have fast-tracked the usually lengthy waiting period within the passport application process. mostly brought about by an inadequate supply of passport booklets to the missions. Hopefully, the backlog will be a thing of the past soon.
We presently contend with close to 5,000 applications for passports. And since the commencement, we just started on the 18th. On the 18th, our objective is to strive to produce 200 passports per day. And that should give us a completion time of about 20 to 30 days.
A lot of us are struggling a lot about this passport. So far I'm happy. I'm getting help. I only got to know about this information 3 days ago, and they likely I make it from Mpumalanga to Johannesburg to capture. I'm so happy so far.
We wish this passport can be at least 10 years. It could be more beneficial for us than always coming after 5 years. It's more okay for us to come after 10 years, not 5 years, then we still come here and renew. So it's just like that.
After Johannesburg, the officers who have already intervened in neighboring Botswana will be headed to other provinces in South Africa and then move on to neighboring countries like Lesotho, Mozambique, and the Kingdom of Eswatini. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
And as we round up, a video of Earth scenes filmed by Chinese astronauts through windows of the Tiangong space station have been released by the China Manned Space Agency. There it is. The Tiangong space station completed the formation of the T-shaped structure on November 3rd last year, with lab modules Wentian and Mengtian on each side of the Tianyi core module. That's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.